radio show slash, I guess we can say it's also tech radio today, because we have almost the entire tech radio gang here, which I'm really, really happy about. This will be very fun. We don't even have enough mics, it seems. But before we get into that, you're listening to 89.5 KOPN, Columbia, Mid-Missouri source for in-depth news, diverse talk, and music in the world. It's more than radio. It's community radio, and you can listen to us live at KOPN.org. Hopefully you can. I think there was a glitch, but I think that got taken care of. And this is our pledge week. So, if you have not donated or paid for your cup of coffee, so to speak, then this is the week to do it. And you can give us a call at our studio line. Well, I'm sorry, not the studio line, but the donation line. It's 874. Let's see which one is it. 874-5676. That's correct. Yes, 573-874-5676. Give us a call. This is a 2-for-1 show, so you may as well support them both while we're on here. All right. So this is Alan Bott, and I am here with. We'll just go around.
Okay. I am John from the Tech Radio Show. Normally.
Mm-hmm. I'm Scott from the Tech Radio Show.
Okay.
I'm Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
From Tech Radio.
I'm going to turn you back up a little bit more. Okay.
And this is, I'm little Robbie Rasmussen, regular co-host of Left Ahead Radio.
That's right. Little Robbie Rasmussen seems so innocent, doesn't he? All right.
It's all about how you say it.
That's right.
Yeah, I try to say it as weird as I possibly can, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. No, Rob's quite a character, I'll give you that. Of course, we're all on Facebook for the most part. If you want to check our show pages. Ours is Left Ahead Radio on Facebook. And do you guys have a Facebook page?
We do.
You do.
KOPN Tech Radio.
Yeah, Tech Radio. Okay, perfect. So, what gets us all here together? What on earth kind of common interests could we have?
Yeah. Well, other than, of course, this is a pledge drive week.
And it's a pledge drive.
Yes. And there are, in fact, about 6 people out there waiting for your call. So just give it a call.
Yeah. What was that phone number again?
It's 573-874-5676. So it's 874-5676.
Yeah. We're going to do a 2-hour show about security.
Yes.
Both the theoretical and the practical. How do you protect yourself in this world of changing things? I got to be very careful on my show because I sound old often when I say stuff like that. Those kids and their hackers. How do you protect yourself?
Caves. That's what caves are for.
And you can't even just go offline and protect yourself. There's a few things you can do. We'll go with some practical stuff on the show. But it is the pledge drive. Sorry if we have to hit that quite a bit, but the station needs the help. It always does. Everyone here is a volunteer, so this is really about running the station.
Yeah.
And this is one of the few stations in the country that actually is community radio. It's not just a tagline. It's not public. It's not government radio. And it's not religious radio. And it's not commercial radio.
That's right.
So you listeners, you're pretty much it. You're our source of funding.
It's true. It's true. You've been doing it for 40 years. So, but it does. It really does take everyone in Columbia. I've often thought of KOPN as an integral part of Columbia. I don't think it'd be the same, frankly, without it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've got actually a list of things we can go over and even a few stories, but if anyone wants to call in with questions, we're happy to be practical because we actually did a little bit of research before the show.
Sure.
That's a first for us.
Hey,
Normally
that's
we don't do
cheating.
research at all.
Yeah, I know.
Is that mic working all right?
I don't know, it sounds funny.
Okay.
When I got it, I'm almost
Just start screaming and they'll really.
Do I need to turn this off? Try that.
Hello? There we go.
There we go.
Now you can hear me.
Okay. Can I put a little context around this in a political sense? And, because Rob and I, not very long ago, actually, we had a discussion with the guy that was in kind of a militia group, kind of from the left wing. He looked at himself like that. And, he had a certain sensitivity to information that he may provide to others and stuff. Whether this was necessary in his case or not, I don't really know. But I know that our world changes very rapidly, and the political dynamics of our world change very rapidly. And what we may think is a perfectly normal existence may someday, at some point in time, not be considered so acceptable. And I think sometimes people feel that if I can kind of protect myself a little bit from unnecessary intrusion. And we communicate so much electronically and through the airwaves and cell and internet. You can pay with things with your phone. It's really amazing. So those things have a tremendous amount of information.
All right. Right.
Yeah, and there's also a history of autocratic regimes spying on their citizens and cracking down on dissenters who are trying to organize. And I think some of the concerns people in the activist community have more about the sort of electronic security culture, how to protect, how to acquire, I guess, secure tools for communication, and how to protect otherwise, not currently secured tools. So.
There's also the people who have nasty exes that are stalking them, that would probably like to have secure conversations just to prevent their own people around you.
We were categorizing yesterday the different groups that it could be a source of problem for people's security and for privacy and a lot of the other things we would like to protect. And then, of course, there's the government actors, and then there's the hackers, and closely associated with the criminal groups, although those groups don't always match up. You also have family and ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends to deal with. You also have a lot of lost privacy by accident. A phenomenal amount of stuff is by accident. The cliche example we give on the show oftentimes is someone takes a picture of someone in the mall, and Facebook's auto facial recognition picks up the picture of the person you're taking a picture of, and you put it up on Facebook. And of course it's GPS and time-stamped, and the 4 or 5 people in the background were also GPS captured, time-stamped, and located. Not an intentional spy job, it's just, it happens.
Yeah.
There's a phenomenal amount of information that's just gathered just as a matter of course. That's not an intentional, not meant to be a breach of privacy, not meant to be a hack of any kind. It just happens.
It's like the inverse of 1984. We're willingly giving over all this information about ourselves just for a few Farmville coins or whatever.
Well, and we talked about this on our prognostications show, which we just got finished with in January. But, one thing we don't talk about often on the show sometimes in those is because one thing we all agree with, so it's kind of boring, which is privacy's dying. As a concept as a whole. That's not that mean we're all happy with it. But
it's an inevitable fact.
It's an inevitable fact. And the young kids, see, I'm sounding old again here. The millennials and even the younger than millennial folks that are entering into college right now are living on the electronic devices, communicating oftentimes more with their friends electronically than otherwise, and they're very comfortable with not having privacy. Some of us will argue about that, but
we'll keep that out of the show.
Yeah. However, one of the goals, I think, personally, is that if you're going to lose privacy, then it should be lost for everybody. And we're also seeing that effect sometimes in the news as the NSA and as the government and as various groups are finding that, we're losing privacy too. And the world is opening up all around, which is making for some very weird effects of the world that...
If this is making you depressed, remember also that the majority of people don't care about you.
That is helpful.
They can spy on you all day long, but most people aren't going to because most people don't care.
Yeah.
Even
I used to work for a telephone company, and technically speaking, a lineman can listen in on any call he wants to when he's doing maintenance on the wires.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
And why?
Okay.
They don't care. It is literally that dull to listen to anything out there.
That's the category I think most of us... I don't know if most people think they belong in that, but I think most people definitely are. You can also call our talk line, by the way, 443-8255. If you have a question.
Yeah, 90% of the conversations that I have with anybody is, hey, are you guys going to be at Starbucks in 10 minutes? And okay, so the world finds out that I went to Starbucks. I was at Starbucks anyway. But most people don't care that I'm going to be at Starbucks. They
when
could
they know
spy on me
you
if they wanted to.
Starbucks, you swipe that card,
Sure, if
Yeah.
they
So it's
cares,
double
again,
verified
you
now
know?
that you're at Starbucks.
Right. There's probably 87 pieces of information on the internet that verify that I went to Starbucks, yesterday at 2 p.m. or something.
Well,
But again, nobody cares what I did.
let's talk about that minority who believe
Except
that.
for the AIs in the aggregate will end up carrying in a way that disturbs you in the long run.
Well, there's always creepy things, right?
Yeah.
I got convinced recently to install some sort of encryption texting program.
Which
Mhm.
one? Do you remember which one?
Should I say it? No, yeah, I installed Signal on my phone.
Sure.
So tell me about that though. I mean, why would I do that? Because that was my big question. I was like, okay, why am I doing this? I don't even know why I'm doing this.
Well, there's two forms of encryption when you're working with things that go over the net.
Okay.
There's the encryption that runs from the client, the device that you're at, to the servers. And then there's the overall conversation that goes from end to end. For example, if I send an email from my Google Gmail account, well, it's secured from my laptop onto the Google servers. So, like, if a hacker tries to listen on the Wi-Fi, the fact that I've got that little lock symbol in my web browser means they don't know what I'm doing. However, Google knows what I'm doing. So there's a man in the middle in those scenarios. Whereas if you work with an encryption protocol, and it's kind of hard for your everyday user to use those things, but if you run to where there's end-to-end encryption is the correct term, where the man in the middle is delivering the information, they're delivering the email, but even if Google looked at it, they couldn't tell what was in it. It's hidden because it's all encrypted. That makes for a perfectly secure connection, or as sure as you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, we should remind people that there is no such thing as perfect security. Also,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Well, there's one-time pads, but those are hard to use.
Well, the thing about using something like Signal or WhatsApp or one of those other secure communication devices is that the idea is that the only people who can see the actual contents of your message are the people holding the two devices at the end. So there's one person, my phone, and then the phone on the other side. Those two people can see the conversation. Nobody else can. Not Google or Facebook or Twitter or the U.S. government or anybody that you would care to worry about. It's all garbage to them. They have no way of understanding.
A lot of
Well,
third
unless
parties
you're outside and your phone's pointing at the sky.
Yeah, well, I mean, people can take
The
pictures.
satellite
of
can
it
still
and
see
all
it.
sorts of other
I
things.
call that the analog
There's
hole.
always a way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It also
Someone
could just
with
steal
a
my
Polaroid
phone.
camera.
Yeah,
and all
exactly.
those pictures.
Sorry.
So are you really telling me that Signal is actually a good in the sense that is it an end-to-end encryption program?
Probably not.
It is. It's end to end, but it's kind of goofy behaviors. I use Signal
Okay.
for my stuff, and it is end to end encrypted from phone to phone. But it allows you to access your contacts, and so there's like this weird hole where if you allow it to access your contacts, it can do kind of weird information with that.
Yeah.
Right, I did notice that once it did that, of course, it takes in all of your old information, but only one side of it. I did notice that it only grabbed
Yeah.
the one side, which is odd.
Right.
Were you going to say
It doesn't
something
grab
about
things
that?
back out of Signal and share them with the rest of your phone.
I mean, you can save pictures and stuff off of Signal, sure.
Right. Well, you can do that, but if you're in a message thread with somebody using Signal and you switch back to your regular messaging app, that whatever you sent in Signal isn't there.
Right.
Yeah.
They're totally different communications channels. So one thing to remember is that regular text messaging is not secure. So the phone companies that deliver SMS messages can read those text messages.
Yeah. They're not even slightly secure.
Right. They're just completely unsecure. And I guess the real thing about that is subpoenas. So if you're being used in if you're being investigated for a crime or some form, they can subpoena the phone company and get your text messages. But even if they got hold of your Signal messages, they couldn't read them. Like they'd just be garbage to the person subpoenaing those messages, unless they got a hold of your phone.
One of the two ends of the phone.
And
Right,
some of
exactly.
the economic incentive for a lot of the smaller companies starting to do communications is that they don't want to deal with the subpoenas. So they literally don't want to know what's in your messages. As opposed to the larger players like Google, who have a strong incentive.
Monetize it.
Right. The general rule of thumb is if it's free, then you're the product being sold.
Right.
So if you're getting a free service, then what they're doing is they're taking your information and finding us a buyer for it. Now, that doesn't necessarily make them evil as long as you understand what they're doing. And usually they do aggregate things, so they're not giving out your personal information. They're grouping you with other people to do advertising.
Can I ask you a question now?
Nobody cares about you. They just care about you, like all of us. They
Well,
don't
your
care about
wallet.
you specifically.
Yeah,
Just all of
and they
us.
care about the wallet too. So let me ask you this though. My thought on something like say Signal is that you know, you might not be able to read my messages, but you can tell that I've downloaded it at some point in time. I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of repository of
Right.
the numbers that have downloaded this. And do you think there's anything, like, let's say the country got really paranoid for some reason, and suddenly, like, even American citizens were, like, kind of being just sort of routinely scanned for weird behavior? I mean, not that that would ever happen. But if it were to...
It would take a pretty insecure leader with some
Yeah.
real
Possibly some of-
issues.
like mental issues, possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly some really diminutive features.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point being is, wouldn't it be kind of suspicious to download encryption?
It can be.
apps?
I mean, you see that in past history with like the old MP3 file sharing programs out there. BitTorrent is not suspicious in and of itself because it's got so many legit uses. In fact, I was using a programming contest the other day where there was a 4 gig data file I needed, so it was being distributed by Tor. So it had nothing to do with hacking or sharing movies. Whereas some of the early protocols out there, they were strictly for pirating. So the act of downloading and using that program is a point of suspicion. Whereas BitTorrent isn't. It just makes you kind of suspicious. Kind of gray area after a while if enough people use it.
And anybody who
In fact,
knows
I would
anything
say
about
if
BitTorrent-
20% of the population is using it, it's like totally not gray area at all.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. What are you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, you know, we need to frame our focus to, you know, what we're speaking to for the most part is the United States culture, United States government,
True.
and for the most part, acceptable Western society paradigms. For example, when we have all these discussions, you have to have, at some point, a certain level of trust in something in order to base the foundation of whatever else you're believing in, even if you're paranoid. So, for example, going back to who downloaded the app Signal, well, if a government entity or an investigative agency were to look for that and sort of build a dossier, you would still then, in this hypothetical argument we're having, still have the trust that that agency or that organization would still follow the rule of law and then subpoena information or then investigate properly. And, you know, when it comes to things like wiretapping and surveillance and photographs and stuff, that they would all go through the court system and the legal perks that are required in order to build those cases or investigate those suspicions of crime. And so a lot of this that we're having a discussion on is based on some paradigms of trust that we just should say up front is what I think we're all sort of understanding as without going too deep into the rabbit hole, as it were. You know, we're not talking about an anarchic society where, you know, everything is off the table and corporations run governments and that sort of thing.
I thought we...
Here, let's put it another way. If the U.S. government decides to, you know, put you in a black hole somewhere, they don't care if you downloaded Signal.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I think that's a great point. Let me just, I'm going to do a counter-contextualization and say, what if you're an undocumented worker? You've been here for 10 years, or your wife is an undocumented worker. You might want to disguise your I don't know what you would want to do at that point. Can we help you?
I don't see it.
What are
I'm looking for Brownie's leash.
Oh, or leash.
Oh.
Doesn't matter, I have about 4 of them.
We just got a visitor and he has a dog, so.
Wild dog.
Thanks, guys.
Stop for a second.
The dog is adorable, but it scared the bejesus out of me when I walked in.
Speaking of security.
Very vigorous dog.
Anyway, like if, you know, right now I've read some stories that there are some increasing, you know, searching for undocumented workers, you know, who otherwise in other circumstances have not, for literally decades, have had to worry about, you know, sort of workplace raids.
Yes.
Not that Signal's going to help you there either. I think that's kind of a valid point.
Well, I mean, the other thing to think about is there's plenty of people in this country that have, or this world really, that have a reason to act in a more secure manner than your average public. And, you know, an undocumented worker might be one example. Journalists might be the second example. Politicians and other public figures, lawyers, all of these have valid reasons. But you do have to kind of understand that once you become the target of somebody with the resources of a first world country,
Kind of
there's a
indicator.
lot of, there's really not much you can do to stop a first world country from coming after you if they want you to. So you kind of adjust in the world where you operate on the assumption that they're going to, which is what Mike was saying, they're going to do things according to a certain rule book. Because if they don't follow that rule book, there's really nothing you can do anyway.
Yeah, we did bring practical advice that we kind of jotted down before the show. All that advice assumes you're not being targeted by a first world government.
Okay.
Because at some point,
Because once you get targeted, you'd
you'd have to head for the hills and live in a cabin somewhere. That's not really.
What's the
that's
budget?
not- That's not what the show's about.
Right.
Okay, before we get down that path, because I like the idea of this list, so we've got a list of some kind of suggestions and thoughts on that in terms of our electronic living security. But before we do that, it's nearing the bottom of the hour. I just want to remind folks, this is our Pledge Week, Pledge Drive Week. And we, as a community radio station, definitely and always need your financial support. Of course, we also need your volunteer efforts and your ears at the radio. And, talk us up around town, because, it is, like I said, one of the coolest features of a town, of Columbia, that is rare. It's one of the things that literally puts us on the map.
And this show's on YouTube, so you know what our faces are. You can
That's
say,
right.
hey, hello, by the way,
Hey.
to the
We're all
camera.
waving.
Oh yeah, we're on 3D camera this week.
Are we live on YouTube right now?
No, we're not.
Okay.
It's being
but
recorded.
We will be.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So this broadcast is previously recorded, so you can still donate at KOPN.org. If you're watching on YouTube, it's previously recorded. Otherwise, it's totally live.
One of the things I love about KOPN is we're not beholden to corporate advertisers.
That's
You know,
true.
we don't have to hold back on the kinds of stories that we like to do here at Left Ahead Radio. You guys on Tech Radio, you tend to talk about some of the issues that people might have with technology that
Nerd
I
stuff.
would. Well, it's some stuff that also
Yes.
gets into individual rights, with like the fact that if you buy a self-driving car, you wouldn't be able to own it in the same sense that you own a regular vehicle, because the liability who's at fault when an accident actually occurs.
Because the software is more important than the hardware in that scenario. Yes.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Or how companies are trying to move away from the standard model of ownership and prevent you from being able to modify some vehicles. Yeah, it's stuff I hadn't heard before I listened to your show.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tech Radio is one of
Don't get us started on robots and how they're stealing all our jobs.
Yeah. What? I'd be
We do
fine
that a lot in our
letting
show as
them
well.
steal all our jobs if we got rid of the need for people to have menial jobs to survive.
That's true. I don't know that we should have those. All right. This is KOPN 89.5, Columbia, Missouri. And as a service to the community, KOPN reads announcements for nonprofit organizations. If your organization would like to submit announcements, you may mail or hand deliver them to KOPN at 915 East Broadway, Columbia, Missouri. Or you can email them to Jill at KOPN.org. For more information on our you can see our website at KOPN.org or by calling 573-874-1139.
So for the pledge drive, 874-5676.
Exactly. I was going to say there's so many numbers. And for the studio, 443-8255. Definitely give us a call if you have any questions. It's not often that we get tech radio they'll be here for 2 hours. So that's good.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that if you called any of those phone numbers and wanted to give us money, someone would be willing to
They'll direct
help you
your call
out.
somehow.
We'll help you figure out how to give us money. Don't worry.
I should have like donation forms in here. We'll just do it live.
All they really need to do is figure out which awesome pledge level prize they want to get. So.
That's
I
true.
guess it's not a prize, it's a thank
Right.
you. But everyone's a winner when people donate to KOPN.
And one other PSA, tune in at 6 p.m. Tuesday, which is tomorrow, for Evening Edition, and be ready for a doubleheader. First, host Mark Hyam will interview Tim Gibbons of the Missouri Rural Crisis Center, exploring what's happening to related family farms and local control in Jefferson City, as well as what's new on the CAFO front. Following this, Mark will shift gears and discuss developments regarding the Dakota Access Pipeline with Laura Wacker from Protectors of Water and Land. tune in and learn more. It comes tomorrow night from 6 to 7 p.m. only on Community Radio 89.5 KOPN. All right, so that sounds interesting. A couple of very intriguing topics. Okay.
Well, first a bit of practical advice, but before I run into it, you're going to hear a theme that come out of our mouths over and over again, which is there's a huge difference in concern about things that can be done online versus things done in the real world.
Okay.
The real world is a huge barrier for a lot of players. So let me run into the first one, which is, and I think we all agree on this one, is people should not be using the same passwords everywhere. Every single website you're on, every single device should have a completely different password.
Never gonna happen, man.
And the only way to do that is with a password management system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. What is that, though?
Either with software, and we've got some examples for that, or pen and paper.
Yeah.
And the reason pen and paper works so well is that, talking about that physical barrier, your hackers will never get your notebook.
Even if they
Now,
had it.
now your ex-husband or ex-wife might.
Yeah,
Right.
That's a different problem.
Are we going to talk more about pen and paper passwords? Or?
Yeah, pen and paper passwords are fine. It is better to have pen and paper passwords, different one for each website,
Mm-hmm.
than it is to have one one password you use everywhere, no matter how strong it is. Because websites are regularly cracked.
And there's two bits of advice I give to people about
And
that.
once you're in one spot, you get everywhere if you use the same password. Sorry.
First is, well, don't keep your pen and paper passwords next to your computer or on top of your desk. Keep them somewhere a little less obvious.
Like
Maybe the next room, maybe the cupboard.
It doesn't have to be super secret. You can just
No.
tape it underneath the chair or something.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever's easy.
And secondly, for your really important passwords, especially email and your social media and your banking and that sort of thing, and I'm using the term loosely here, but salt them. Meaning write down the password and then also add a little bit of garbage. That only you know is garbage.
Wow.
Like an extra word or a number or a phrase or something,
add an
so that
extra letter
a
as the
casual
second letter.
observer is not going to know your true password because only you have the sort of reverse code to get that password. Everyone else looking at that password never going to figure out where the garbage is.
Here's a simple example. If you know that, the third and fifth letter I never use.
Yeah.
Right.
So you write down a long series of letters and numbers, but you just skip over the third and fifth one.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to, I had this password management system where I would write my password with this invisible ink you could only read under a black light on an old painting, and then I had the key for that gibberish language that I made up hidden behind a file cabinet that you had to push out of the way, turn on a special light.
Yeah. That would work, although that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, that was
That's
a
starting to
Resident
sound.
Evil
Yeah.
reference.
Oh, okay.
I was sitting over here going, has he really talked about Resident Evil?
Yes.
Almost you were talking about Lost and the map.
Oh yeah.
No, so
lots of it.
it's worthwhile to go into the reasons why, though, why this is like the one that you start with. Because, I mean, if you probably polled the 5 people in this room, you'd find 5 people who didn't use all 100% unique passwords. But the reasons for that is not because you think that like having different passwords will somehow make you more secure. It's that you're assuming that at least one of these passwords is going to be hacked. So at some point, someone's going to steal your Gmail account. Someone's going to steal your LinkedIn credentials. They're going to break into whatever else it is. And when they do that, the only thing they get is what they stole in the first place. That's why you use different passwords.
Oh, do you have any hesitation about that? Because I don't think I've ever had like a real like theft of my.
Yeah, password
credentials.
hacks are usually
Fish.
they're phished. Yeah, they're either phished or the hack comes at the server level where, thousands of accounts are stolen from a company.
Exactly.
And
I haven't
so
had that happen.
and so the owner of that data could do then is then just try to start logging into all the social media and other type of websites with that username and password and try to conceal themselves as you, which is why you want different passwords, because once they have custody of one, email account plus password, providing that they target you specifically, then they can have more, build a little personal dossier, and next thing you know, you've got your privacy not only compromised, but your identity stolen, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, for the most part, password hacks, really not on a one-on-one basis, except through phishing you know, the analog hole where people call up and ask a bank, hey, you know what, I forgot my so-and-so, you know, and a bank actually gives out information accidentally. You know, the human element of security is one of the weakest parts of it, other than phishing. But for the most part, your password is not your weakness at your level. Your password is your weakness if someone cracks the server and then grabs your password, because then they can go around hunting other websites using that password.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about, like, what I do is I have 3 levels of passwords for myself. Like, I have the first level, which is the trash level. And that's like any web forum that I have to sign up for to view one thread about a specific thing related to a hobby that I'm into that week.
Okay.
You know, but they make you create a new account for that.
Click
So
here to see video.
there'll be those,
Or
like, the
register
least
here.
secure passwords for things that I don't care about, and then medium
I've got,
security.
I admit I do the same thing. I've got a
Yeah.
throwaway password I use everywhere. The same
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I know it.
Because I don't
And
care.
throwaway
Yeah,
email.
I think,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
throwaway
you do know it.
I do, or variations of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I use like medium security stuff on some social media that I use less often, and then high security passwords for my personal email and banking and all of that. But
I have
'cause
a similar-
I had like one forum that I was on got hacked, and they stole everybody's email addresses and passwords, and from that they were able to start emailing people on the forum through those personal emails, and it was a scam to it was a help I'm trapped in a foreign country with no money scam.
Awesome.
And they would pretend to be people's family members. And
Social engineering is a common story you hear with the hacks. And the more information, I mean, you think, this is not an uncommon thing. Someone gets a few key bits of information about, oh, you forget some.
We do. We have a caller here. I'm going to go ahead and put you on the air. Hello, caller. You are on the air on KOPN.
Yeah, one of my coworkers in my office uses a program that she stores her passwords in, and it's kind of like she has a password that she has to use to get in there, and then also on some of her passwords it automatically redoes them or reconfigures them. Do you have any experience with that kind of software, and what do you think of it? And I'll listen on the air. Thank you for your show.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I use one of those. They're called password managers.
Yes.
And
In fact,
if
I have
you-
2 suggestions.
Yeah, if you get good ones, which sounds like we have some suggestions on, if you get a good one that's nice and secure, they're perfectly fine. It's a totally legitimate way of doing things.
Even though it is also digital on a computer.
Yeah, well, they're designed in a little bit more secure fashion than your average piece of software.
Interesting.
Yeah, and very specifically, they also do the scenario where they don't know what your passwords are.
Huh.
The middle player doesn't know either. They don't want to know. They want it so that if someone hacks their system and actually gets that data, they can't do anything with it.
Yeah,
that's
I've
really
often wondered.
that's really important to them.
Yeah, I mean, when you do one of those software, you are trusting that the author of that software knows what they're doing
Yes.
with regards to
Yeah, that's
security.
true.
And there are specific organizations that have written pieces of software that are trustworthy.
Yeah.
But not all of them are
Yeah.
probably trustworthy.
Well,
I haven't investigated them all.
My 2 examples I brought, and I'm not saying these are the best of the best. One of them I use, and one of them I have lots of friends that use. One of them is a little bit harder to mess with, and it's the one I use. I use something called KeePass, KEEPASS.
Okay.
The benefit of it is its security level is really high, and it's also open source, which means that a lot of security professionals vet it regularly. It's well-known code that they really go through the roof to make secure. The downside to it is it's not a service, it's actually just software.
Okay.
So it runs on your different mobile devices and on your desktops and on your things, but it's up to you to figure out how to synchronize them. So it's
Right.
not a just install it and go kind of thing.
Not
You
super
got-
user-friendly.
It is not super user-friendly. I use it because it's very useful, but I mean, it's a password manager in the full sense of the word. And it doesn't do all the weird tie-ins, which I think of as holes almost in security. The other password managers do. Because the other ones try to fill out the password for you on the website, which is convenient.
Yeah,
But it also means if someone hacks your computer, they can work backwards into your password manager.
that's true.
KeePass will do that.
KeePass will allow you to copy to the clipboard for a limited time.
Okay.
It's not quite the same thing.
I'm looking at their website now, and just as a clarification, it's KEEPASS. pass.
Yeah, not K-E-Y.
Yeah, right.
It's misspelled on purpose. Yeah.
And I will say that, and I'm not going to say that the website is not user friendly. I'm going to say that it looks technical. It looks like
It is.
people who understand it. Open
That's
source
why I have the
software.
second suggestion.
Yeah.
It is not user friendly. Speaking as a tech professional, it is not a user friendly website.
But
And
it
the
sounds
so-
very effective.
And the
super
software is
secure.
not, yeah. The fact that if you have name conflicts within the keys in your password manager, they have database resolution software that you have to invoke.
Mhm.
The very fact that I said all that stuff means it's not friendly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
If you want to install KeePass easily, there's a website, ninite.com, and that's a super user-friendly website for installing a whole host of free software, including KeePass.
Yeah.
So NINITE,
Now-
which is how a 4-year-old says goodnight.
Now, if you want a commercial product that, ironically, they actually had a hack problem a while back, but even that hack problem was actually really limited because they actually do a pretty good job. In part, they were attacked because they're like well known in the industry. It's LastPass, LASTPASS.
That's the one that I use.
Yeah, and they're $12 a year.
Oh, that's pretty reasonable.
They'll say it's free, but it's like real restricted if it's free. So forget that. Ignore that. It's $12 a year. But they
I
synchronize
actually do use the free version, and he's right. It's $12 a year.
It does everything for you. You just basically install it, and you put it on your phone, you put it on your laptop, you put it on your desktop computer, you put it anywhere you want to, bling, 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 it all hooks up. You can get it anywhere. And that one, along with KeePass, also allows you to do something that they don't sell as a selling feature, but I think it's important for any of these. It's easy to export your data, so you're not locked into them. And in fact, what I strongly recommend is you periodically print all of your passwords. Now, I don't know if everyone else here is going to agree with this. You print them all, and you put them somewhere really safe, like a lockbox somewhere. And the reason you do that is because if you lose your digital data and it's synchronized, and so you synchronizedly lose it all, synchronously lose it all, you still have a backup. So your whole life isn't lost because you forgot. Because let's face it, you're not memorizing passwords anymore when you use something like that. They all generate nice, long, super secure passwords for you, random.
All right, we got another caller. You're on the air.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well.
Well, I just turned on. Maybe 30 seconds ago. I heard you talking about passwords and how to store your stuff. And I call once in a while. I talk about Bitcoin. And I was thinking that there's a very similar situation there, where the way to secure digital currency is really in a physical way. You can actually do it. People have heard stories about big hacks where Bitcoin has been hijacked or stolen from online exchanges, and Mt. Gox was the big one actually that got everyone's attention. But there have been a number since then,
Okay.
Yeah, it's just sort of the same thing. I mean, if you keep your keys to yourself and don't store them somewhere else, you can actually secure the stuff. But anyway,
Interesting.
I just always appreciate your show, and I really have nothing else to add. but I just want to call and say hi, and I always love the conversation. But I really do think that, and I always sort of end with this, is Bitcoin, digital currency in general, is not a scam. It's not a Ponzi. It's not some sort of con. It's extremely sophisticated when you really get down to the nuts of what's going on there, and it's really cool. And I think that it's going to have some sort of influence in the financial realm. It's just a matter of how it gets sort of integrated. It's not going to go away. It's going to become a part of it, I think. And if you do have anything to say about it, I'd like to hear what your current thoughts are. So thanks, guys. All right.
Hey, don't forget to pledge. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
We'll figure out a way to
and
take
I
Bitcoin.
do. I'm a current member and have been for years, and I
Excellent.
appreciate everything that the station does. So
Excellent.
yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. With Bitcoin, I don't know, it's a weird thing, this one weird trick I found out where I print it all out, and then I bring it to this this company that has a big vault and armed security guards, and I store it all there. So,
All your bitcoins?
you know, but I mean, it's like they call it cash or something. I don't know. So I know drug dealers.
You're a
use
little
it
bit of
cash,
a
so-
Bitcoin skeptic, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I just don't like the cyber that much anyway. So.
I mean, I think it is an interesting side conversation. Not to derail us, because I think we're on a good path here. But I mean, Bitcoin in an insecure world. I don't know what your guys' view on that is, but maybe we'll get to that later. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We were talking passwords and.
Well, I mentioned the two password managers.
Good.
Those are the
Yeah.
two big ones I recommend. There's other ones out there. I'm not
Yeah.
saying those are.
I guess I had like some questions about encryption services for email. Like, you know, if I'm a professional protester, so I'm trying to get all this communication from George Soros so I can get all those checks and stuff. So how can I communicate with him through the cyber without it blowing up on being found out on Fox News? You know.
Don't use email.
Okay.
Yeah, email is the wrong way to go. Well, there's two problems with
Yeah.
email. One of them being
Really?
they-
It's that insecure? Like, you guys would just say, stay away from email like a bad habit.
Well, so you
if
can
you're
do
doing
secure
something you're trying to
email.
hide, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's possible to do secure email, but it's really hard. Email is a fundamentally insecure protocol. When you send an email, you're not sending from one computer direct to another computer. You're sending it through possibly hundreds of servers bouncing around,
Huh.
and any one of those servers can log your email for any length of time that they want to keep for history and archival purposes.
And while you can encrypt the content
look
of
at
the
it.
email,
Mm-hmm.
you can't encrypt the fact that you sent it to George Soros.
And you can't encrypt
Right.
a lot of the header information that comes along with it. Not
Okay.
just who you sent it to, but also when you sent it, where you sent it from, a number, like in a internet sense, where you sent it from, like the domain and email address you sent it from, and all this. So email is, there are secure email solutions out there, but they are harder to use. If you want to be secure, the best solution is do not use email.
Okay.
There
so
are
should
other-
I just keep sending him Facebook messages then?
Believe it or not, I don't know much about security of Facebook.
If you really want to send things secure, the best way to do it is actually with a physical medium of some kind.
Sure.
A courier, for
Yeah,
example.
a courier.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how they got
One
Bin
you can
Laden, man. I'm
trust.
not falling for that.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down
It took
to
us a
some
while to
degree
find
of
them, I
trust.
gotta say, though. Because remember that barrier, once you hit the real world, that's kind of like what the caller was talking about, Bitcoin. The best way to store your Bitcoin is not on the network at all, is put on a flash drive that you haven't connected to the internet. It's really hard to hack things that are not on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, but it's hard to find something that won't connect to the internet or isn't connected to the internet. I mean, I don't even think
They will
on a
happen when you
computer
can't
that
you can't buy a toaster without it having an Internet of Things thing. Yeah, I know.
Oh, it's so great.
It's
I was at
happening.
the convenience store today, and there's a device that dispenses coffee creamer and sugar and sweetener and that sort of thing. It's got a little touch screen and little buttons. And in the middle of the screen, it said unrecognized file. So the user interface was crashed. So basically the entire unit, which replaces a bowl and a spoon, is completely unusable now. And all the contents behind the screen are just locked up behind this, what I presume is some kind of error in JavaScript or something.
Here we got another caller. Hello, caller. You are on the air at KOPN.
Hi. In this day of a lot of activism and, people getting a little bit afraid of what the Trump administration is doing or their police department, is there some way to communicate between activists on a phone or something that has to be done quickly that would be secure?
Okay.
Signal, right?
Signal is a texting thing. Are you talking about something like that, or are you saying you still would like to be able to speak on a phone?
It could be a texting, just to get the word out quickly that everybody needs to go here to do this.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys as the professionals here? Let's say I got a mass email or a mass text that I'm going to send out. I've got Signal. Most of the people have Signal, but some of the recipients don't. Is that message still somehow secure?
No.
Okay.
It is, in fact, as insecure as if you sent everything via regular text message.
Really?
So the entire text from...
Everything has to be sent securely, or you have to assume nothing is secure. That's the general rule of thumb. If it's not completely 100% secure, it is insecure.
Okay, what about
Because the
colors?
recipient gets it, and then that recipient phone is then unsecure.
Yeah, that's
Even
true.
if yours is.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
And
can they trace it back to my? Of course they can.
Yeah.
Of course
In
they can.
fact, I've got a story that just came out about the inauguration protesters.
Can I ask one more question before we
Sure.
go? Because I think the caller, and correct me if I'm wrong, caller. What about the caller's question about phone calls? Can we make secure phone calls to each other somehow?
If you're a state actor, no. If you're worried about a state actor, like a first world government, no.
What about a local
If-
police department?
Then you could probably flat out, the best way to communicate is with voice.
Like walkie-talkie or something?
Talk on a phone.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah, I
if you're worried
just read
about
an
a
article where all of the police departments bought into a lot of the surveillance equipment that was really illegal, that they should have to have a warrant for, but when people use their FOIA request.
Oh, careful with the phone dial. Yeah. There we go.
People use the FOIA request and find out that these police departments have purchased this equipment, but they're not supposed to be using it.
Right. The device you're talking about, in fact, they'll never use it against you in a court of law because they know if as soon as it goes to court, it'll go to the Supreme Court and all the police departments will be banned from using it. They know full well they can't use it.
which
What
is not
is
to
it?
say that they cannot hurt you with it.
What are we
That's a
talking
very
about?
distinct-
Oh,
Stingray,
Stingray,
I believe
yeah.
It's a private company that produces a device that allows you to listen in on all the cell phone traffic. And
It acts like a mobile cell tower.
It acts like a bogus cell phone tower proxying all the traffic from the phones to it and then into the cell phone tower.
Huh.
So it acts like a middleman.
Can you tell it all when you're on the phone? Like, is there any classic spy movie clicking on the line or anything?
No.
And if
No.
the cell phone companies wanted to get angry about it, technically they're violating their security licenses in order to do it, but they're shutting up about it.
Right.
Not that conspiracy theory on that, but it's just,
That is what they're doing.
it's
For
not
whatever
a
reason.
common thing though, because you're getting back to the problem with boringness.
That's
Police-
right.
the
Most
police-
of us, yeah.
Police departments don't have time to actually listen to all those calls.
Okay, we do have another caller. The caller, did you have anything else?
No, thanks.
All right, thank you much. Appreciate it. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, what about that cell tower out there like Providence or whatever, where they make it look like a tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You
that's,
know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
That's just because cell phone towers are ugly and they want to just
Make it a little uglier.
let it blend in.
Well, what was that, like an experiment or something? Because that's the only one around that they did that with. They're all ugly. But
They actually hide cell towers all over the place, but they hide them in all sorts of weird. But so there's a
They're
bell
getting
tower.
better, yeah.
There's a bell tower at a Lutheran church on Stadium and Rollins that's actually also a cell tower.
Mhm.
But it's just tucked right into that bell tower, which is nice and super high. So I mean,
Wow,
the fact that they hit it,
a bit more stealthy than the one on Stadium or Providence.
yeah, just
Yeah.
a bit, right?
yeah, you're right. They didn't do a very good job with that one.
No.
It was kind of funny. All right. Anyway, all right. Later.
All right, thank you much.
Yeah.
And the thing looks like it came out of Mega Man.
I don't know. I kind of think it's awesome in a weird way. But,
As cell phones mature, because they're trying to use lower power on the phones and also have higher density of information using the same frequency space, they have no choice but to add more smaller towers, which means they're having to put in more and more tiny little towers rather than big ones, because for a variety of reasons, including power problems.
yeah, you might know the answer to this. Do they have mini cell towers here in downtown? Do you think, like on say the Tiger Hotel or something like that? I mean, I would
The
imagine
Tiger
it
is loaded with towers right now, but they do have a few else around downtown. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's amazing how many cell towers there are surrounding us right now that you would never even notice.
And they'll oftentimes place towers in conjunction with a landlord because they have a high density of people. Like this Columbia Mall has their own towers. I mean, you won't see it because it's probably in some room somewhere going to the walls. But it's because it's just a high density of people in a
Right.
small area.
A good example of this high density type of solution is there's a semi-permanent, even though I guess it's mobile, it's temporary, but there's a cell tower just north of Thoreau Field that is dispatched on a flatbed truck trailer that is about 20, 30 feet tall, and it's specifically designed so that, and it's probably put out by one of the major carriers, so it only helps, one of the major 5 that are in this area.
Well, except there's 2 groupings, and the odds are they're serving 2 or 3 of the groupings.
Maybe. Yeah, absolutely.
We have another caller.
Okay.
Hello, caller. You were on the air with KOPN.
Yeah, how can I text from my laptop?
So,
Text through your laptop.
text through your laptop. It is technically possible, but
You
it
got
is.
to go to Skype?
I think
It is-
WhatsApp does it.
Phone.com will allow you to do it,
Oh,
but you won't get it.
Craigslist.
You won't do it for free with phone.com.
Google Voice.
Google
How about
Voice.
Craigslist?
Craigslist? I've not
I
heard
mean,
of
you kind of
Craigslist.
sell a
Seems
bike.
like you ought to have a
kind of-
button. I could just hit this button because a lot of the people want you to respond with a cell phone or a text.
I see what you're saying. When they post their phone number and they say text me because I don't answer it, I see those ads all the time. You should be able to just hit that thing and it sends a text to that number.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're saying.
And you can
The
send
problem-
them an email, but they usually ignore those.
Yeah, people do it.
The problem is that the cell phone carriers and the telephone companies are very, very aggressive at preventing people from sending mass messages through SMS. And so if they got wind that you figured out a way to do it from a computer, they'd shut it down because they don't want you to do it. It has to do with the fact that people really rely on text messaging being on subject.
Right, and
I
getting
think,
spam.
I think the telephone company is abusing me, and I want to get rid of my landline.
Right?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, do it.
A lot of, does anyone here have a landline?
I
see
don't.
Yeah,
cell phone
I have to have one.
offer,
Oh, one does.
I see cell phone offers for $10 a month,
Mhm.
and my landline costs a lot more than that.
Order. No, I'm kidding.
And then they want more money if I want to buy a plan.
Yeah.
Cell phones are not cheap. I mean, I don't know. Do you think he's going to find one for cheaper than his landline? I mean,
So they won't let me call anybody, because I don't have a plan.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's
Like I
prepaid
can't call
phone.
a local cell phone
Mhm.
number or
Right.
an 800 number,
Yeah, no, they usually want money.
Yeah,
and
that's
shit.
and they don't have an operator that they can refer you to.
You talking about your landline? Is there problems you're having with your landline?
Oh yeah, they just keep
Yeah.
cutting off the services.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
terrible.
pay-as-you-go cell phones are probably
Okay,
the way to go
anyway,
with that.
let's make it so we can text from our laptop.
I hear you. I hear you. Hey, have you pledged? Oh, well, hopefully. Okay.
I mean, I think if he and he alone could handle that much responsibility and power, I say let him and only him text from a little laptop.
Yeah.
I know a workaround. And I gave the suggestion of phone.com, which totally works. But the
Yeah.
problem is, and the phone companies know this, phone.com is a phone company. And so you're actually paying
What?
a $10 a month fee.
Yeah.
Which
Head
means
just
that,
exploded.
but also they also have humans monitoring your traffic levels, just like they have with the cell phone service, so that if you start texting too often, it's going to set off flags, and they're going to go, "Wait, are you a spammer?" Now, for an everyday person who may only send 20, 30, even 100 text messages a day, that's not a big deal.
Plus, it only works when you're in front of the computer. So as soon as you hop in the car to meet that person or whatever, you can't text message back and forth anymore because your laptop doesn't have signal, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
you wind up hopping from coffee shop to restaurant using public Wi-Fi somehow in order to
Or
send and
using their
receive
cell
text
phone
messages.
service to do it.
Yeah.
There's not a good answer for that. What's really happening for the younger folks is they're not using text anymore.
What are they doing?
They're using WhatsApp and
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Snapchat
Snapchat's
is
the
really
big one.
popular. Yeah.
Someone was snapped.
That is how I know that I've finally crossed. I've been able to kind of keep up with technology, as it evolves throughout my life. But now I think Snapchat is just too far.
Funny thing about Snapchat. So I was on a bus yesterday with a bunch of co-workers at a place of business, and I was the accompanying spouse on this trip. But everyone was in their 20s and 30s, and they were all having fun with Snapchat. And I just kind of aside said, Snapchat doesn't see my face. And they were like, "Oh, get out of here!" So they pulled up Snapchat, and they pulled the filter, and they put it in front of me, and it kept seeing the girl next to me.
Wow.
And they're like, "What are you, some kind of vampire or something?" Just like,
Yeah.
no, Snapchat. Something about my face. So if Snapchat's looking to hire people to, refine their software, I guess I'm guinea pig for that. But
Mike
That's
would be a
hilarious.
good courier.
yeah,
He would.
yeah. Send a courier.
The
We
AIs
don't even
don't see him.
recognize him when he walks in the room. We're like, who is this guy?
You don't even see me.
Yeah. All right, it's about the top of the hour, and normally at this time we segue right on over to tech radio. I don't know if we want to, play any music or anything for the top of the hour. Otherwise, I'll just do a few PSAs. Okay. And this is just a station I need to remind you that you are listening to the great community radio, KOPN 89.5, one of the rare community radio stations in the country, right here in Columbia, Missouri, and mid-Missouri. And we at KOPN would like to thank the businesses, the professionals, and organizations that underwrite KOPN's programming. These play an important part in your community radio's financial health. When you visit a KOPN underwriter, please let them know that you appreciate their support. For more information about underwriting with KOPN, you can go to kopn.org or call 573-874-1139. Also, during KOPN's upcoming fund drive, which is starting now, and it goes through the 19th, we are in need of Spanish-speaking volunteers to answer the phone during our El Festival de Polo program. Forgive me. If you speak Spanish and are able to help Saturday, February 18th from 8:45 to 12:15 p.m., please call Jill at 874-1139 and sign up for a time slot. Yeah, so that's on Saturday. I think we have, I don't know if it's Saturday or Sunday that we have the majority of our Spanish-speaking programming.
I think it's Saturday. You have a lot of Spanish programming. It's pretty cool.
And
I don't think they would have called it polo, though.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why I apologize. It's like, I'm sure this is so wrong. I just said it.
They have my favorite theme music of any show on KOPN.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, thanks. Missouri River Cultural Conservancy is hosting a reception on Sunday, February 19th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in celebration of 10 years of archived original music from Central Missouri atheists. Central Missouri artists. Presented at the Boone County Historical Society Museum and Galleries, refreshments, wine, and beer will be served, and a special recital will be performed by Sutu Forte and Bill Rowe. Open to all, but donations are welcome. For more information, look at Mo River CC Facebook page.
That faux pas would have caused interesting results.
It would have.
Somebody's going to be mad about that.
Yeah. How can you say atheist on air? Okay.
What are you guys doing for Valentine's Day?
I was just about to mention something about that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Go
Something
ahead.
secure.
I was just gonna say, we've been speaking about privacy, but in case you're not concerned about privacy, today would probably be the best day, if you haven't yet and you're interested in dating, to sign up for that Tinder or Match.com or OkCupid or what is the other one? Harmony.com.
That's a great segue, in fact, into our next security.
So if you're interested in giving up a little security in order to perhaps gain some security in the arms of another, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So take it from me, folks. I've talked to some people. I talked to some people yesterday, actually, who are married with a child and met on Tinder, of all things.
Oh, wow. That is
It was the long-term hookup app for them, I guess. It was, yeah, so there you go.
It's real. Computer dating really is the only way. I have not looked at the back page of a newspaper for years. I just want to say on our pledge drive again, there's some excellent premiums, which is sort of a gift that you get after you've donated.
Is there anything on there that related to Valentine's Day?
There is, as a matter of fact, if you pledge $89.50 or more, you can get Chord Busters, which is singing Valentines, a rose, a card, 2 love songs, and 4 guys in tuxedos. That ends tomorrow.
I know 2 of those guys. They're great.
Yeah, see, look at that. I mean, she would be very impressed, or he would be very impressed. That's a specifically Valentine's one. There are Yellow Dog Bookstore. You get $20 gift certificate. Not much is as romantic as sharing a book. And you get 2 pounds of coffee from Zubest at the $60 pledge level. House of Chow is ever a favorite, $20 gift certificate at the $60 level. And so there's a whole bunch of good things. Go ahead and call, and the people that are answering the phones have that list, and they can tell you all about it. But Go ahead and give a
874
call. Yep.
5676.
874-5676.
Yeah. Do you have a cash register sound effect pulled up? No? Doesn't matter. For the rest of this hour, up to $60, up to $100, I'll match.
Oh, that's
thing.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's great. Look at that. So we now have a match. So every pledge that comes in up to a total of $100 the next hour, Rob is going to match. See,
That's
how he
$100
uses that.
total.
That's, I know, total. I think I said total.
It's like a corporate match, but he's a person.
Yeah, with very limited resources.
He's doing his best here.
He's doing his best. So, yeah, see, I told you Rob had a good side.
Thanks, buddy.
It's the juicy inside.
Yeah. Okay, so all right. So where were we at there? We've covered emails, which we don't recommend, I guess, as a group in terms of something that should be secure. Like, don't do your top secret plans in email and send it to your friends.
If you're trying to do something that needs to be secure. For everyday stuff, email's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we send like 100 emails a day, and
Yeah.
it's not a big deal because 99.9 of those emails are really boring and no one cares about them.
But if-
It's the one that you care about.
But if you are kind of a annoying activist group, and that could be a lot of things, because see, I guess to my mind, the issue isn't so much that you're going to get taken away to some gulag. It's that you're going to be bothered, or that your plans, maybe if they're political, are going to be tried to be interfered with.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you're even doing anything illegal.
Yeah, or
What,
if you're a
there's
Russian
a few things you
nationalist,
could.
that's,
It's a few things you could do. First off,
Sorry.
go onto social media, all the different ones, and create a clean account.
Okay.
Sure.
That's
New
not.
email.
In other words, if you're going to have Facebook, have two Facebook accounts. One that doesn't have your name, that all your friends know, and one that does.
You have to go against terms of service, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not 100% legit stuff, but it is a
not-
method.
It's not against the law, it's just.
Yeah,
We're gonna
it's
get
legitimate
Facebook
here
out
is
there.
weird. Like Facebook will get annoyed at you.
Absolutely.
Facebook is hardly a law enforcement.
You won't get arrested, but no.
And second off, don't take your phone with you to anything that's important.
Or maybe a burner phone.
Turned on anyway.
Or, yeah, you can power it off completely.
Oh.
Take the-
Don't make it silent, but I mean literally turn it off. Because you are being tracked. And
Sure.
you're being tracked nowadays if you have a smartphone, period, even if you're not being looked at by the government.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Rob, as an activist?
No, that's yeah. I mean, we've been doing that since the early 2000s. You know, if we were meeting up, you'd either didn't bring your phone, or anybody who brought their phone would take it apart, take the battery out of it, take the SIM card out, and stick it in a bag in another room.
Yeah.
So
Turn it off
And
is
that's just to
oftentimes
like
better.
organize a march. You
Because
know?
if you actually need your phone, it's nice to be able to put the battery back in. So there's some benefits
Also,
to
you,
carrying it.
you can't take the battery out of a lot of modern phones.
Yeah,
So-
take it out of mine.
But you can turn them off.
You can turn them all the way off. You can leave them at home. It is okay to go without your phone for 5 or 6 hours.
Now, you said we were going to start a fight today.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I can't believe that. What's your name again?
I hear that's true. I'm not familiar with it, but
I'm just thinking out loud here, by the way. Just revisiting email real quick, John. Scott, what do you think of this? Even if you use email, you can't conceal the envelope, so to speak. So the sender and receiver is fairly open and unencrypted on the server. But what if you were to send, say, a completely encrypted attachment? Like a Word doc that was encrypted as an
sure.
attachment, and the only person who knew how to decrypt it was someone with the password on the other end. That would at least, and then you sort of draft the email inside the Word document,
Yeah.
that would at least protect the contents, right?
it would get to protect the contents. And you could, well, I'm a Linux user, so I would use PGP or something and zap it at the command line and attach it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if you have to use email, that's at least one way to kind of get a semi-secretive thing to
Sure.
another person would be to use an encryption technology to encrypt zip it somehow with a password and then attach it to an email. Now the envelope is still public on the mail server, so to speak, but the contents, even if someone were to acquire it, might not be able to reverse hack that password. Okay. I thought that might be... Okay,
We've
not for
just
zips.
been joined by
Nabil.
Nabil.
Hi.
Hello, Nabil.
Hey there.
No, another thing that you'll actually see health insurance companies kind of started this is what you do is instead of sending actual stuff, you send them a link.
Yeah.
And you say, click this link and go to this, go to this link and see it. Now, clicking links has its own share of dangers because that's how phishing happens.
Right.
But you can do secure content by that way because you're not actually sending anything
Yeah.
incriminating.
Don't click the link. Just go to the
But never,
website
ever
itself.
click the link.
Just go to the website itself. If you get an email from Anthem, your healthcare provider, don't click the link. Just go to anthem.com and start off that way. Sign into your account. Don't click the link ever, never.
Yeah, never.
Unless you have a lot of money to give to a computer professional.
Yeah.
Do you think people should, go ahead and load up their old MySpace account or any old social media logins that they haven't used for years, and make sure that those accounts are thoroughly deleted and go on? Do you think that people tend not to think about the risk of losing old data or old passwords that they don't use anymore? They don't use that service anymore, but they might use the same password still.
Well, at a bare minimum, make sure you're not using the same passwords anymore. But yeah, deleting accounts that you don't use is a good thing. It's called reducing the attack vector. It reduces the possible ways in which people can steal stuff from you. So if you're not using the account, delete it. Don't use it.
That's smart.
Great.
It's just common sense.
I didn't spend all day yesterday in bed deleting old social media accounts. I was reducing my attack vector.
That's right. It sounds much cooler when you say that at a bar.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to remind people again, you can give us a call at 443-8255, and you have the great opportunity to call in. Of course, normally it's Tech Radio anyway. This is basically Tech Radio, and Left Hand Radio. It's a full house in here, so give us a call. 443-8255, and we're talking about security in a digital age, where things get a little bit, I guess messy, and politically or maybe personally you've got issues with people in your lives, which I think is probably one of the most scary scenarios, because almost inevitably they've already gone through your stuff, they already know. But now if they're going to try to hold it against you, it's a whole other story. So I don't know. Happy Valentine's Day. Anyway, so what else? Did you have something else on your list for us?
Well, yeah, because we've hit passwords pretty heavily for about an hour. So
we really did.
Yeah.
Rich topic.
And we could either go to backups or trusting incoming phone calls. We probably should start with a simple one. If someone calls you, or if someone emails you, look at the direction of communication. If someone calls you, they're lying to you.
Yes.
For the most part.
Or emailing you.
Well, yeah, if your mom calls you, she's probably telling the truth. But I mean, if a company calls up, if Microsoft calls you up, first off, Microsoft's not going to call you.
Right.
But let's pretend that maybe Microsoft would one day. Even their own employees are going to tell you, do not tell me your password. Do not give me a credit card number.
Yeah.
The call centers that do outbound phone calls, and there are not a lot of them in the corporate world, they don't want their own customers doing the bad habit of giving information on an inbound phone call.
Right.
What they're going to tell you is that, yeah, you need to deal with this information. Maybe it's the bank calling you. They go, yeah, we've noticed you've got a problem with your account. I'm giving you a courtesy call. You call us and get that fixed. Not the other way around. And even if they give you a phone number, just throw it away, and you get your own phone book out, and you call the bank with the bank's phone number, and then you get that resolved. You don't go the other way around. They assume everything on an incoming call is a lie.
This is a real world example of what John was just talking about.
Okay.
Someone clicked a fake antivirus ad, and I'm not sure how they ended up getting that person's phone number, but they called her saying, oh, this is Microsoft, we noticed that there's this problem with your computer, this is what you need to do to fix it.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And she fell for the fake antivirus scam.
They didn't call her. She called them first and hung up. I guarantee it.
Did you get the number?
I don't know. I'm kind of blurry on the details, but
yeah.
Is that one of the the ransomware?
No.
No.
It's just a
scam.
It's just a pop-up that you can't dismiss very easily, and it says your computer's hacked with a virus. You need to call us immediately, and they give some toll-free number to call.
Yep.
Don't call the number, or if you call the number and you're especially crabby, just insult their family till they hang up.
It's amazing.
It's
how
very
convincing
cleansing.
those things can be, though. I mean, there's the one. Of course,
No,
that
it's not
hijacks-
convincing. It's
Well, it looks official. It looks official.
It doesn't matter. The
That's-
rule is they are not going to tell you to call them.
Huh,
If-
interesting.
you know, think of Google.
Okay.
Go try to find Google's phone number.
Wow, that is an interesting idea. Can I Google Google's phone number?
Google Google's phone number. Try to find Google's phone number. They don't want you to
the
call.
only number I
They
know of Google
don't
is
want-
8.8.8.8.
They don't want you to
Tech
call.
jokes.
Microsoft is never going to tell you to call Microsoft unless you are a head of IT that's ready to buy about 1 million licenses and you have your own sales
So,
rep.
this-
But you're never going to see a pop-up that says,
Right.
this is Microsoft. That
No,
really is
not for
Microsoft.
tech support.
If it is, it's a lie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. There was one though that seemed to pop up from like the FBI or
Yeah, no,
something
don't
like
do
Same
that one either.
thing.
Sure.
Don't do
It's all
that
fake.
either.
Yeah, don't do that one.
Yeah, they're trying to shame people who are looking at pornography.
Sure.
generating
Well,
that.
not only that. I mean, it happened to my boss at one point.
Mhm.
There was this
And I
beautiful
don't think
virus
it-
that I saw one time where it assumes you have a laptop. It activates your webcam and snaps a picture of your face and puts it in this little fake picture, little fake website, and says, "You've been watching illegal porn, and
Wow.
we're gonna tell your grandma." And and shame you, and the police department's going to come and knock down your door,
No.
and all this sort of stuff, and your community will be shamed, and blah blah blah. It's all fake, and it's all
Right.
fear,
Right.
and
People
I
fall for
call those numbers and unload on them.
Oh, that's good.
My wife gets so mad at me for doing it because I say the most horrible things.
But you're fighting the right fight. I mean, I'm with you on that.
Oh yeah.
Is it? We'll go
Kind
and
of
decide
fun,
as to
yeah.
whether or not that's actually a fight. But the
Fair enough.
phones, like we're using phones as an example because it's really obvious. But this
Yeah.
happens all the time with emails.
Mhm.
So for those who are politically aware, the whole WikiLeaks thing was because John Podesta clicked a link to reset his Gmail account, and it did not take him to Google. And that's
Oh.
because Google sent him an email and said, your password is bad. Click this link and we'll change your password. Then that link took them to not Google.
But it
and
wasn't
he typed
Google,
in his
yeah.
password and gave it away. So this is not just a phone thing.
Yeah.
It applies in anything that you operate in your life. If someone contacts you, don't assume they are who they are without a significant verification of who they are.
And just anecdotally as well, from my experience, it doesn't matter how smart you are. You just gotta be aware when you have to put information in. I know that there was a situation at one work space that I've been in before. It's a big company. They had official emails. They received an email at their official email saying that they needed their, to verify their payroll information. They do it. PhDs lose entire months of their paychecks. Very smart people, not tech people though, mind you. But
Oh no, we've lost our stuff too.
yeah. It happens. So I guess that's a really good point. All right. What was the next topic?
Oh, it was backups.
Oh, can I say one more thing about the
Yeah.
phone thing? So sometimes on Facebook, and this is probably just me. I don't think it's me though. I don't do anything with my phone. I don't think anything weird that would cause some sort of like a little pop-up virus pop-up. But I sometimes will get them from links on Facebook.
If,
Yeah,
it,
like a
if it
virus
takes you to a
warning.
web browser, the web browser, depending on the security level of your browser in the phone,
Doesn't identify it.
can pop up a thing that looks like it's coming from the phone, not from the web.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it usually pops up more when people are looking at pretty
Yeah.
hardcore pornography.
That is a common scenario, but it's not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just fake news or what have you.
That's true. in fiction.
CNN? Is that the fake news?
And I don't know if we were meant to talk
Just
about
kidding.
this on the show, but if you're thinking about getting a new phone and you can afford it, definitely get one of the two phones out there that actually update your software on a monthly basis or better.
What are those two phones?
The Apple and Google Pixel. So the iPhone or either the Nexus or the Pixel line from Google. Those are the only two players out there that actually keep on top of things. All the rest of the guys are
Slackers?
they got good hardware, but they're really bad. Well, there's two players involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's the hardware manufacturer that puts all kinds of weird hacks into the system because they're trying to sell stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's the carrier who puts all kinds of hacks into the system because they're trying to sell stuff. And once it's all hacked up, it's very hard to upgrade and increase the security. So between those two players, neither of them want to really do it. And so it never happens. So you'll buy a phone, and you'll have that phone a year from then, and you'll have never gotten a security update ever. Whereas I've got a 5X. I'm a fan of the Android operating system. I have to reboot my phone once a month because I'll have a new update with new security patches on there. So the thing you're talking about, those web pop-ups, I don't see them ever. Because that JavaScript vulnerability has been patched on my phone.
Huh.
And so I don't see it.
Well, I mean, you pay for a good phone, and you think they'll take care of you, but I guess not.
Yeah, and I do apologize for
can't.
that answer in some ways because both the Pixel and the iPhone are expensive phones.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that.
I don't think they're any more expensive than the Galaxy, whatever latest Galaxy there is.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, nobody buys their. You like pay your cell phone carrier to.
In your bill. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but
I
the
don't-
cell phone carrier doesn't want to bother with the hardware, though. If they thought of themselves as like a software company,
Then they might.
then they might. Ironically, if Windows Phone ever took off, that'd probably be your third option.
Yeah.
They
never did that.
They just need to actually have a phone that works.
No.
although if
They have the right
you're
culture.
looking for security,
Yeah.
at least for a little while until security holes catch up with them, obsolete hardware is the way to go. Like if you want
Like if
to
your phone's
be
really old,
protected
yeah.
from bad apps from an app store, use a Windows phone because the hackers are just not spending any of their time making apps for that thing. So
No, actually, get a flip phone.
Flip phone.
oh sure,
Just get a flip
if
phone.
you don't want apps,
Yeah.
If you don't want anything. If you just want a phone that does calls and text
Calls and
messages
texts,
and gives you peace of mind, flip phone.
Plus, it takes you back to Star Trek.
The lesson that we learn as technology professionals is that if you're going to be safe, don't ever do anything that requires us. Just don't do anything that requires technology, and you'll be safe. Unfortunately, in a lot of worlds, we actually want to use the things that we've designed. So you just have to understand the risks that you're taking on when you do that.
How close are we to people using drones like carrier pigeons?
You want to send Soros a
like
carrier
that.
pigeon
Well,
drone?
probably a way back because there's some logistics problems with that right at the moment. But
Yeah.
range.
Range would be one. Can't they like refuel in the air? Some have like a refueling.
Land and refuel,
You should
land
have
and
that.
charge.
Land
Sure.
in charge. Yeah.
But there's also the legal aspect of it because right now, FCC, I think it's FCC regulations say you have to do it in line of sight of your device.
right.
So
It
you have to
requires-
break the law if you want your drone to be away from where you can see it.
Again, it's not the technology that's missing. It's our social ability to like get that new technology compatible with our lives.
Well,
Yeah,
there's,
although in that
there's
particular
technology
case-
problems too.
Yeah, I'd say there's tech problems there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
doesn't the military have like drones that can
That's
fly
the
all
military.
over?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the technology's there.
So when you want to,
If you want to pay millions of dollars for it, I
Right.
mean, you could get your own jet too.
Okay,
it's
fair enough.
almost certainly cheaper to hire somebody to hop on a commercial airplane and take your thing to wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, just don't
that's
peek.
that's the most efficient. Hire somebody you can trust,
There you go, Rob.
or do it
Yeah.
yourself if you don't trust anybody.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, the less you trust, the more you
Side
end up
eye,
doing
Scott.
things yourself. That's just kind of how that works out.
All right. Once again, our talk line is 443-8255, and it is Pledge Week. Go ahead and give us our phone bank people out there. Call it 573-874-5676. And what was the last thing on the list? Is this the last one?
Well, actually,
Or this list?
we had a huge list, but these were the top ones. Backups.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
is-
backing up.
Backing
yeah.
up.
Like not a car, but your data.
Your data.
Yeah.
Where in fact actually this is a very old topic, the digital dark age that we're entering into, where old information's lost forever.
Yeah.
We're losing more
Exactly.
information than we've ever lost in human history.
Yeah.
But you don't want that to happen to, like, say, your family photos
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And with more stuff coming in digital, you never have a paper version. There's no fallback, so you need regular backups of everything. And that doesn't mean synchronized online backups, no matter what Cobalt wants to sell you with their backup service.
Right.
The best way to do it is with physical, and this is tough because it means that you have to have discipline. Make physical copies of your work. Now, how often you want to do that depends on your personality and how important it is to you.
You mean physical copy on a pen drive or printing?
On a pen drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thumb drive, flash drive, USB drive, whatever you guys are
I've
calling
got a
it.
large home file server that I use myself that I back up everything to it. And then the file server, every 6 months, I make a physical copy of the entire server. And it costs me like $60 to $100 because I go get one of those things from Best Buy to get one. But I make a
External
copy.
hard drive? Is that what you're talking
External hard drive, essentially a USB drive or a network drive. I make the copy, I let it run overnight for it to run, and then I put it in the closet.
Huh.
Yep.
That seems
If
like
you want a true backup, you've got to have a few levels. You've got to have, your physical backup, which is, your pen drive or your flash drive. You can use something like a Google Drive as sort of it's not true backup, but it helps you if something is lost along the way sometimes. It just depends on how well it synchronizes as to whether or not something goes.
There's two kinds of archive. There's archive from, protection you need from is protection from failure of the system, and there's protection from accidental deletion.
Huh.
A synchronized system will not protect you,
deletion.
or intentional deletion.
Or intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a system that's like got an online synchronous thing, and you delete the file you wanted, and then it deletes it from all the backups, that didn't help you any.
That's true.
So, like in the Apple world, there's something called Time Machine, and that's a good type of backup where you can go backwards in time with sort of like pictures of your desktop computer going backwards, your laptop and going backwards, and then go, oh, I can get this file back and get it like that. And there's I think Microsoft Windows 10, all of them come with a free version of OneDrive that you can pay a subscription for. And in the case of, I think we would all agree that in the case of backups, it's worth it to put some money towards it. I mean, there's free backups, but I mean, you get what you pay for. It's important.
You really can't not put money towards it, even if it's the cost of the external hard drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's like Google Drive has.
Yeah, but that's a synchronous backup.
And what's
so
the problem with that?
Well,
you put something in your trash can, Google Drive also trashes it.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
But if your computer fails, Google Drive is fine. It just depends on what type of failure you've got.
you can simultaneously delete it from every device that you own.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is both a feature and a bug.
That's right.
Pulling it back a little bit on security, though, if you're worried about someone reading, say, your stuff, if you go to delete something, you actually have to make sure you delete it from all your backups, including your online backups. So it goes the other direction, too, because those things are designed to keep things.
Yep.
So if you don't want it kept, you have to check on them and check on it.
So I have a question that's somewhat related to this, I think, and it has to do with how you started this piece here, John. And you said that it's a digital dark ages. We lose things all the time. But I think that that's not just a personal matter, and it is true. I mean, I don't think I have a picture of myself from before 3 years ago or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's that limit, right, where we just we lose a computer or a phone and everything that we had on it is gone. I've done that, so I'm guilty. Back up your stuff, but it's not just personal stuff, right? I mean, isn't there a risk? Like I use Google Docs and Drive a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a possibility? I mean, it's remote today, but maybe not in 5 years or 10 years, that Google either goes under or stops that service, or look at things like Voodoo, where you're literally paying, $20-$30 for a movie. You get a whole library. It could be worth literally thousands of dollars. One day, it gets bought out and shut down.
Yeah.
I have, in fact, been going through my old disk archives, and so I've been slowly taking up all these floppy drives and that kind of stuff from the old days. And I now have my dad's old dissertation in scriptsynth format from the TRS-80 Model 3s. I can't, for the life of me, convert that thing. I have a kind of a workaround. If I can build an old Windows XP machine somewhere, I've got an emulator that'll mimic a Model 3. I might be able to load it
Wow.
and print it out.
That's amazing.
But if the data is old enough, it's really hard to ever get
Hack
back.
of a hack of a hack.
Yeah. There are a few things you can do, but it's not an easy answer. I mean, you can try to convert all your files to a well-known common format. Like, don't rely on your Word documents and that kind of stuff to turn them into PDFs if you're going to archive them. But that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
In practice, it's tough.
And the longer you don't do anything, the more you're going to have to do when you finally decide to do it. You know, I mean, because it is really true. I've gotten to the point now. I've been using Google Docs for basically I don't know since it started, but a good 4 years. There's a lot of documents I've started keeping on there. But it's very fragile. I love the convenience of it, but
Alternatively, print it out on paper.
what?
Yeah,
What's that?
you can always print things on paper.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever stopping you from doing that.
You need me to get like a chisel and a stone out next?
Yeah, well, you
Just
could do
like-
that. Yeah, you could write it on
Make
your
a
hand over and over and over.
Mnemonic
again.
memory device using bear skins and stone knives.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
I mean, it really, I don't think I can stress this enough, that low-tech solutions are still solutions.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't have to come up with the fanciest online solution in the universe if you have a 3-ring binder and a stapler and a bunch of paper. You just print it
For that
out.
matter, keeping old photos
In
in picture
as
form.
as
printing
photos,
them out, yeah.
stick them in a
Print 'em out.
scrapbook
It's
and
not
put it
a
on your
bad
shelf.
idea.
Which is really easy to do. I mean, literally, you just upload pictures to, I think places like Walmart, Walgreens. You just upload a whole batch and it
Yep.
prints them out. Print them out various sizes.
Yeah,
It's
for
not
for
terribly expensive.
$10, I think you can get like several hundred photos.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not
a
like,
lot.
I mean, it's.
I don't
cheap.
spend $10 on pictures, but I've gotten several other times.
Yeah, well,
So I guess on
They're cheap.
the other side of how to secure or back up your data, when the time comes to destroy it, what's the best way to
Hand axe.
make sure that all the
Light it
data
all
is
on fire?
unrecoverable
Hmm.
on a hard drive?
so
Magnet.
there are.
I mean, could
actually,
you-
yes.
Actually, no.
EMP.
No?
Magnets.
Magnets don't work?
You
Mag-
can take a magnet carefully enough, you can do it.
Magnet, if you take the hard drive, you take a magnet over the hard drive while it's still in the cases are built to redirect the magnetic field around the platters.
That's
mostly
crazy.
true.
Should they
And
have
when
a
you say take the hard drive out, that metal box is not the,
No,
the
I mean-
susceptible part. That's the protection for the susceptible.
Exactly.
Okay.
You have to
Okay.
see the cylindrical discs.
Cylindrical discs.
If you're not seeing the cylindrical discs, you're probably doing it wrong.
And if this doesn't make sense to you, don't bother.
Ah,
There's easier
good
ways
point.
to do this.
Keep
Yes,
smashing it
yes.
until you find smaller and smaller bits,
Yes.
until you find something that looks like a cylindrical disc.
Or just keep smashing it
Yeah.
into smaller and smaller bits,
pretty
and then
much
throw it
always-
into multiple different trash
Oh.
cans.
Pretty much what always works is fire.
Yeah, fire.
No.
Set it on fire.
You
Those
gotta grind it up and burn it.
Yeah, he's got bulk tape erasers. I mean, there are, physical
Those are
damage
strong.
to hard drives will work. If you need a digital solution,
Oh.
like for example, if you want to keep the hard drive,
Yeah.
there are secure delete formats. I think there's actually one integrated into OS X now, where you can secure delete a file and it'll actually overwrite it
Mhm.
instead of just like. So when you normally delete something, all it does is change like a couple of bits on the hard disk, and then everything
As
like
long as you
appears to be
don't
gone,
have a solid state drive, which is the new thing.
which has nice history, right?
Right. And the solid state drives have a BIOS that map out sectors. So you'll actually have more sectors on the drive than you actually use that it's rated for, so that it'll take old ones out of play and put in new ones, but you can't override the BIOS with the software in your computer. So you could have sectors of your disk permanently on the drive and have no software means of deleting it.
I guess
ever.
we should go back and say everything we've talked about, except for shredding it and burning it, applies only to magnetic disks.
Yeah.
Because yes,
Solid states don't work for magnets either.
SSDs, solid state disks are their whole separate game.
But there are, and I don't know many details about this to be honest, but there are software packages that claim to be able to secure delete on solid state drives as well. So,
What kind of drive is in my
They
phone?
can't because they
Solid
can't get
state.
past the BIOS.
well, I think you can always wipe the entire drive and just wipe until
You-
the BIOS does what it wants to do.
No, you can't, because the BIOS removes the sectors from the map. It looks like it physically doesn't have that sector anymore.
Oh,
The way to
yeah,
get
yeah, I
around
get what
that
you're
is to remove the chip from the board of the drive,
Mhm.
and then to put in your own BIOS chip.
Or again, smash it with a hammer.
Yeah, just grind it up.
And immerse it in vinegar.
Yeah, just smash it with a hammer. I guess that's the ultimate solution there.
Is that going to work with my phone now?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If
Oh,
you
yeah.
destroy
Find out.
technology, it won't work anymore.
Although what might be better with your phone is to wipe it as clean as you can and then donate it so it goes up in a third world country and it's never seen again.
there's
And
also-
you're being nice. You're doing
And you're
something
being
charitable.
nice.
And then they call you and say, hey, we're from Microsoft and we want to protect you.
By the way, in case you were wondering, water doesn't damage hard disks. It
wondering
damages
that.
the electronics on them, but
Right.
it won't damage the actual data itself. So do not, immersing in water is insufficient. You need
Okay.
fire, acid,
What about
hammers.
like
That's why I said
really
vinegar.
Salty or acidic water or something.
acid, vinegar.
Acid, okay.
Yeah,
But remember,
Fire.
the key here is you're seeing those cylindrical shiny plates. If you're not seeing the cylindrical shiny plates, you're still doing it wrong.
Right.
Alternatively, if every
So
piece of the
smash it.
drive is less than a centimeter in dimension, you're probably fine too.
Yeah. Then you're still seeing the cylindrical.
Should-
Should be.
Oh yeah, and a 223 bullet
Yeah.
through the discs.
Bullets work. Yeah, bullets are pretty good.
I've seen some pretty interesting target range
But
activity
actually-
on a disc.
Actually,
M80s?
one is not enough because it will damage part of the disc. But with the right equipment, and here we get to the whole talking about how destroyed are we talking about? You know, if we're talking about destroyed from, you know,
For legal purposes.
destroyed for legal purposes, still not enough.
Well, depends on how much money you've got.
No, because if you're talking about destroyed for legal purposes, it's how much money they've got.
That's what I meant.
Oh, that's a fair point.
The only reason burning works so well is because then you've got the laws of entropy on your side. But I don't mean burning like put it in your oven. I mean you'd have to have a true furnace.
No, melt it.
You melt it down and it's gone.
Yeah.
Short of time travel. We're
Okay,
not worried
well
about
let's
that.
say you had like 5 minutes.
You have 5 minutes and you have to
Destroy all your data.
5 minutes? No, I
Yeah.
don't think
And
we
make
can
it look
do
like an accident.
No.
If you have 5 minutes to destroy your data or the government's going to lock you up, self-immolation is probably a better choice.
This is what if you're going if you imagine you are going to ever be in a situation where you only have 5 minutes, you do full disk encryption.
Right. At all
Full
times.
disk encryption, and then the 5 minutes you take that battery out of your laptop, or you unplug your, you know, if it's a wall computer, you unplug it. If it's a laptop, you take the battery out.
Which, by the way, I think, does Windows do it? I know OS X has encrypted hard drives as a default option now, so you can just have it.
Yeah, you go to your system preferences and choose file vault.
So, well, if I had 5 minutes, what I would do is I would, first of all, have an encrypted hard disk, and then I would take a hammer to it and beat it up as much as I could for 5 minutes, because that just makes it harder. Like, it doesn't make it impossible, but it makes it harder for people to get to it. And you always run on the possibility that the other side isn't as smart as you are, and they assume that it's busted and beyond repair, and they don't even try.
Now, if you want to just irritate people, instead of encrypting the hard drive, just fill it with randomized data.
Sure.
A large file with
That's
randomized
just
data.
messing with people.
And
And
then
it takes a lot of time.
And just pretend that you don't know the password.
Oh,
And they'll
right.
be working on it for decades.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but you can be held in contempt of court for not giving up the password to your encrypted hard drive. So there is a man that has already served 16 months in prison on contempt of court because he hasn't given up the password to his hard drive, and he will stay there indefinitely until either the law is changed or he gives up his password.
But
So
has-
let's
but
also
why-
stop for a second, though. I'm not sure that anybody in this room is a lawyer, so let's kind of hide from legal advice.
I agree.
If you're in that situation, talk to a lawyer who
Yeah.
actually knows what's going on long before you take our advice. You know, there's certainly an argument to be made for not giving up your passwords until you talk to a lawyer. But if follow your lawyer's advice. That's what they're for.
Can they hold you in
I agree.
contempt of court if you forgot your password?
I have no idea, but I assume yes.
How would you prove that?
Well, how would you prove I didn't forget it?
Well,
I guess
again,
They
can
could
put
put
me
you
in
in
front of the
16
computer.
minutes, 16
Let's-
months in prison and find
Let's
out.
talk to a lawyer and see what the lawyer
Yeah.
tells you to do. Because
Lawyer.
I'm fairly sure that you could get in trouble for pretending to forget your password. But I'm also not sure that they can force you to give it up either. So talk to your lawyer.
I
Find a lawyer
suppose
who's
it's
good
very
at that.
case by case, see, about their situation. So.
One
So-
thing I will say on this, and this is fairly, I don't know if it's accepted, but your fingerprint
Yeah.
is often not considered security.
Thank you.
So if you use your
About to
fingerprint to
mention it.
unlock your phone, I'm pretty sure that cops can make you,
They can compel you.
they can compel you to open your phone up
Yes.
because you're proving identity, not security.
Didn't we just, on this exact topic of police accessing your phones, wasn't there fairly recently a Supreme Court ruling that said that police cannot go into your phone?
It requires a subpoena.
requires a subpoena, but they can't just do it if they arrest you.
Right.
I would go
On a district by district basis.
Talk
Talk to your lawyer.
Yeah, talk to your lawyer.
I really want to stay. I personally am going to stay away from saying anything about what I think is or is not legal.
Nobody's going to call us to court and say, you said on the radio that...
Well,
No.
I don't want to get. I don't want to.
Let me put it this way. If
Careful, will not
if
be
you're
paid
in
for
that,
your
if if we're in these hypothetical situations where you only have 5 minutes, or you're worried about law enforcement or anything like that, you really shouldn't be taking security advice from people on the radio show. I mean,
That's
not
true.
not
Good
to say that
caveat.
we aren't professionals,
That's good.
but you're kind of beyond the point of a talk show.
And it's
That's
always
also good.
situational. That's
How
also
worried do you
situational.
think that guy is right now, though? That's frantically running around his house trying to
That's
listening to the
crap.
show.
Isn't
I've
that
got like
you
6
after the
copies of
show?
everything.
Yeah.
Don't mix vinegar and bleach.
Vinegar and bleach aren't good?
Do not mix them.
No, I don't.
Vinegar and baking soda is fun though.
Since we're talking about damaging things, let's talk about saving them for a second. So
Okay.
people who do drop, and I don't know, maybe you all know this is a clear answer, but I keep seeing it all over the internet. I personally think it's got to be an urban legend. But does the rice trick work if you drop your phone into the water? Can you literally throw it in a vat of rice and have it work again? And is it any better than any other option?
It depends.
It
Depends on a lot of things, yeah.
It
Really?
depends. It will not revive it if it's already damaged, but there is a small chance that if it hasn't already been damaged, to prevent it. Because what happens is this. The urban legend is this, is that rice absorbs moisture.
Moisture, yep.
Right, that's what they
Right?
say.
So you take your phone apart,
Yep.
you take the battery out, you put it in the rice, and it absorbs the moisture. There's a little bit of truth to that, but the devil's in the details.
Okay, yeah.
If the water has bridged the contacts to your battery, it's probably all over.
It's all
If the
over.
water has bridged the very small contacts on your phone's like radio chip, it's probably all over.
All right.
And if you're going to do the rice trick, I recommend heating up the rice to 150 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes, letting it cool down to room temperature, then put the phone in there. It's going to absorb more moisture.
Interesting. Caller, you are on the air.
Yes, sir. I work with people who wear wearable electronic devices, i.e. hearing aids.
Okay.
And this stuff these days is so nano-coated that if it won't work after you take it out of the water and put it in front of moving air, it doesn't need to be warm, don't use hair dryers, it's moving air like a fan, or if your AC's on already, put it in front of the AC vent, let it dry out, take it apart to the degree that you can, and it'll usually come back on, and if it doesn't, it's toast.
Ah.
That's always been what I had heard too,
Yeah,
as well, caller.
The rice is amazing. So, hey, I really enjoyed the show. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Have you pledged? Give us a call on the other line at 573-874-5676 and pledge. Okay. Wow. So that was interesting. So that his advice basically was that anything that I guess he works with like hearing aids and stuff. What if it's toast and not much is going to save it. But that was my second part of my question: is what do you guys have?
Although
any
waiting a
secret
day
tricks?
does make a difference often.
So keeping it off and waiting a day is that about the
That's
best
part of it.
treatment
Yeah.
you can
That dries it out.
Put it in front of something hot and dry, like if you have a space heater.
Warm.
Or a
Warm and dry.
or a hair dryer.
Not hair dryer. Just blast it.
I've actually done that with electronics, believe it or not, where
Oh, yeah.
you take a hair dryer and you put it on the warm setting,
Mhm.
and you just hold it over there for a while, and watch a movie, because it's going to take several hours, but it does help dry it out a little bit faster.
Yep.
But, as he said, if the water's already bridged contacts, you're done, so it's kind of a crapshoot.
Huh.
That being said, I think a lot of modern phones have some degree of water protection in them, so they do often survive brief water.
Yeah, I know they sold the Galaxy S6 as water resistant for like X number of minutes or feet or something,
Mhm.
like 30 feet or something like that. But I had one really, talk about phones, I had a lot of problem with my Galaxy S6 last fall, I think it was, and had to get it replaced a couple times. But they were checking for a little, I guess there's some sort of
Yeah. There's a
sensors or
patch. There are a couple of
patch.
little stickers inside there that are white, and if they are contacted with water or moisture, they turn pink.
Oh,
And so they know you submerged your phone in water.
And he was looking for that because he was saying if it's been in water, the warranty doesn't apply.
Right.
anymore.
And that's
Even
that's
though
just
they
about all phones.
advertised it as going into a swimming pool. I remember that specifically.
Yeah, and by the way, there are phone cases that will secure your phone against water intrusion really well. So if you're worried about water, get the protection and encase it in a good waterproof, water-resistant case.
I think OtterBox makes some of those.
Yeah, there's all sorts of brands out there now.
In fact, if you've got young kids, OtterBox is good too, because you can literally throw those phones across the room.
I got my daughter a Mophie.
Because my young kids.
Yeah,
I
got her.
Kids have.
Yeah, no, I got her a Mophie, which is not only a battery pack but also a water-resistant one. So there's Mophie, there's OtterBox, there's Life Proof, and a few others.
All right, we have about 15 minutes left, and a couple of things. Who's on after us?
Jazz plus blues equals soul with Kevlin Wallace.
Wallace? Or Walsh?
Kelvin.
It's Walsh.
Kelvin Walsh.
Calvin Walsh?
Wallace.
Calvin Walsh. Yeah, we'll ask him. So, does he have a thing, a theme song he's probably play? Rob? Do you want to play it?
Sure.
Or, I guess, that would be able to find it. He does it all the time. And then the next thing I was going to say is let's do a quick shout out for our Pledge Week drive again at the quarter of the hour. So KOPN. Let's see, how long have I been? I think three and a half years or something. And it's been a great experience. I really enjoy it. But I really love how, like we were just mentioning, it's very independent. I mean, the diversity of shows from political points, left, right, center, up and down, weird, strange, and music's the same way. I know country and Spanish music and all that stuff. So it's a great institution to have in Columbia. So I really encourage you to call it.
In fact, I have a hard time describing the station to my family members because I'm out of state. Because they go, well, what's KOPN about? It's like, all the stuff.
Everything else.
It's like the miscellaneous station.
Not every community has something as valuable as KOPN.
Yeah, I don't remember what the number was. It's like 35 stations in the country or something like that. It's some low number.
It's dwindling.
It's dwindling. I think we're one of the smaller cities to have one.
Yeah.
Part of they're hard to maintain.
Part of it is, and that's just it, because part of it's technology. A lot of people just switch to podcasts. And they're podcasting. Now, we have a station podcast. And a lot of our various shows also have independent podcasts. And for example, we put up our YouTube video of this 360 camera that everyone conveniently forgets is in there. But a lot of people have moved to just podcasting, but we're still terrestrial radio. You can find us on the FM band. It means we provide some additional services, being a radio station, that those things require funding. They require full-time employees.
And it's not just that. The fact of the matter is, this show, probably both of these shows, but I can say for sure, our show wouldn't exist without KOPN. KOPN doesn't just establish a terrestrial radio, it establishes the reason for the show's existence, for the podcast and the Facebook page and the website and everything that goes along with the show. It wouldn't exist without the show, which wouldn't exist without KOPN.
It's 100% true.
Yeah. It's just really like the only immediate resource I can think of where you can go to. I mean, you can hear music from every corner of the world and political talk about what's happening in your actual community right here in Columbia. Yep. We have city council candidates on the show from time to time. Yep. I know Mark Heim's talk show tends to as well. So.
Yep. No, that's 100% true. And really, Columbia, a lot of things happen here. I mean, we have not been able to stay on the national spotlight for too long before something else happens. So, but it does oftentimes start here. I know that Jen Henderson did her that story kind of broke on KOPN and made it all the way to Comedy Central, the Daily Show, with that spoof. So yeah, I mean, Columbia Tribune just got bought. It's now an out-of-state owned paper. I mean, it's no longer owned locally. So after 100 some odd years.
They did. I noticed that.
Yeah.
But then they changed
their
their
hate it, but it's not locally out there. So Yeah, give us a call give the guys at the table a call, 573-874-5676, and make your pledge. Year-long donation, a year-long membership is $60. That gives you voting rights to the board, or 4 board members, and of course, keeps us on the air, which is, I think, a really important thing.
And serious, it's only $5 a month. You pay more for that for Netflix.
That is true. That
Don't
is
be
true.
such a cheapskate. Like Katie Jenkins, I'll call one person out. No, you've been listening to the radio for years.
Come on.
No, you're not paying for it. Come on,
Katie.
Oh,
Katie. What's your radio fee?
just before Valentine's Day, boy.
Yeah.
Man, I'm dumb, aren't I?
You're gonna have to make up, you're gonna have to send flowers now.
That was a genuine look of shock for the listeners. I just want to say, you'll see it
What's
on
worse
the
is
camera.
captured on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the headline? Yeah.
We're gonna have to color correct this now for the amount of blushing you're doing.
So yeah, we're down to about the last 10 minutes. This is, I know on our show we call that the final thoughts. If people want to give us a call, try to get that last word in. And I know that's a thrill, right? Is if you can
We
be the last
trademarked
word.
that idea too. Final thoughts.
Yeah, it's ours.
We came up with it.
But we've had a great discussion. I really appreciate this, you guys. We'll have to do it, if you guys are up to it, other times, more times, because I think for me, I learned a lot. And I always, whenever I listen to you guys' show, I'm always like, gosh, I wonder about blah blah. Because I always have a question about what you're talking about. Technology's all over in our lives, right? So, it's on our minds a lot. And I don't have all the answers. You guys certainly have a lot more than I do. So that's really good. I appreciate that.
Did we mention Tor?
We
Not
did not.
yet.
We did not.
Go ahead.
We did not. Okay. Tor, if used correctly, I could say would be one of the easiest to use and most powerful tools that you might have at your disposal.
What's Tor?
Yeah, what is
Tor?
Tor is the onion router. And what happens is, so the scenario works is this, is I have a website up online.
Okay.
And anyone that connects to me, I know who that, I see their address, I see their IP address, which is like their telephone number.
Okay.
Okay. With Tor, what you do is your connection gets encrypted and relayed through a number of other participants in the network, so that when the ultimate connection comes out to my website, it comes from a kind of a random other Tor node, which means I really don't know who it is that's connecting to me unless they do something to give it away. So if you connect to Facebook using your Tor and log into your Facebook profile, you've pretty much given yourself away.
Huh.
But what it does is it gives you back that certain amount of privacy that you didn't have before. There's a lot of outside of the US, it's actually used to circumvent censorship. So websites that would be blocked or otherwise inaccessible, people use Tor to be able to access those websites. The other part of it is for those that are kind of worried about mass surveillance and they want to look up something, not nefariously. You might not be looking something up because you plan to do anything evil, you're just looking up some kind of controversial subject.
Okay.
Then using Tor correctly will enable you to look that up easily, with a little bit more peace of mind, because even the thought of being watched makes people not look things up. So, for example, after the Snowden revelations, Wikipedia did this study where they looked at all these kind of controversial Wikipedia pages. And after the Snowden stories blew up, they noticed a significant drop to the number of visitors to those pages. Now, that's a correlation, but I think, it's kind of obvious that people are worried about being watched.
Right.
So if you use Tor and you use it correctly, then you can look up these things without having to think about, oh my God, am I going to be put on a watch list or not? And the more people that use it, the more the network, the stronger the network becomes.
So is it doing that thing where it's just pinging your IP address at a different computer somewhere, or
Yeah,
So-
it's like when you make a request to go to, say, we'll pick on his website. I don't even know that you have a website, but just pretend he does. If I'm going to his website through Tor, my web browser connects to his web browser, which connects to his web browser, then his web browser connects to him. But it's random. Selection's random, so it pops to the network on the way through. Well, his website come up slower, but not that much slower.
A little bit slower.
A little bit slower. But it anonymizes who it is coming into his website.
Okay, but it wouldn't just ping the traffic to the last computer or browser in the chain?
Oh, it does. It sees the last browser, but that last browser wasn't going to your website.
And it was just one piece. And there's, thousands of pieces for each website.
So
you
if there's
can't,
10
you
million
wouldn't be
people
liable
on
for
if there's-
something that some other user was looking at.
No, because if nothing else, you could show that you're running the Tor browser, therefore you had no idea what that other person was doing through your computer.
So this is
Certainly
just a
not
browser.
intent.
Well, Tor is actually technically it's a way of communicating over the internet. There is a browser built on Tor that
So
allows you to browse the
in
web.
my experience, it would appear as a browser.
Yeah. It's something called the
Not
Onion
technical.
browser.
Yeah, you actually just download and install your Onion
Yeah,
browser.
when he started it, just for kicks and giggles, I downloaded the Onion browser on my phone. It's now ready, and I'm using Tor. It's that easy. But if you imagine
That's why he'll
those,
tell people when he explains why he has it.
right? That's exactly. I was doing it for demonstration, really. No, if you imagine those late '90s movies where they're, like the James Bond, he's bouncing through 7 different servers off Guam, and they're showing the pictures of the little dots running across with pictures of the world map. That's kind of what Tor does, but it does that with every single bit of information. Well, they're called packets, but every single little tiny piece of information goes to a different set of servers, bounces around to a different set of servers. So it's like if you said the sentence, I take candy to grandma, I might go through 3 servers, but then take would go through 3 completely different servers. So even within, little tiny bits of sentences, they're all broken up and scattered all over the place. And no one piece of information is enough to reconstruct the whole message. So no one piece of information is enough to actually incriminate you.
So
And then they're all anonymized, so that you can't even tell where they came from anyway.
So how come the hackers to the DNC email? I mean, how can you track back who actually did the hacking if there's things like that?
Well, they didn't reveal how that was done.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't use Tor.
Well,
No. So, for when you're talking about a DNC, that kind of level, then the keyword is attribution is hard. The assumption in the kind of security field is that there was other information that the government has that made them so sure. So there are things, so when the website gets hacked, the tools that are used and the web methods, all these kinds of things are almost unique to the group doing it. So they use that kind of stuff to say, this hack used the same tool as that hack, so it's probably done by the same people because that tool isn't out in the open. So I mean, either some magic coincidence they just happen to have made the same tool, or it's the same person. So they'll group them that way, and then they, based on the targets and all that, they'll try to infer who it is. But that's not solid evidence.
Right.
That's not evidence. That is just we think it might be this these people.
It
But
is shadowy, I gotta say.
Hi, fellas. I was
Hello.
encouraged to come in at the join here by our station manager
Yeah, absolutely.
for the handout. There's no hurry. Continue your conversation. I just thought I'd remind people 874-5676. I got to get a picture of this crew. Continue, please.
That's Kevin Walsh, by the way. He's coming out here very shortly.
And Tony Lockman has stopped by, noted local musician and musical legend, really. So all kinds of things happening here at KOPN.
That's right.
smile for the selfie.
No, I'm waiting. Continue.
Okay, so yeah, that is good. I was just going to ask everybody what's going on next week. Do you remember, Rob? We have a guest. I don't remember if it's
I think
First
it's
Council.
Yeah, Andrew
First Ward
Hutchinson,
Council.
who's
Andrew
running
Hutchinson.
for First Ward. We'll also should have a relations media officer from the John Brown militia to call in and give us an update about what they're doing, how they're arming radical lefties, and how much I want to go live in their basement and just be a part of that.
What about you guys? Tech Radio next week? Anything super?
I think we just have a standard show next week. Cover the news,
All right.
latest
We'll
tech.
talk a lot.
You start making
For
it
like
sound
an hour.
boring, man. We're having an awesome show next week.
Sometimes boring is good. In the new normal, boring is sometimes good.
Oh, that's true.
We're having an awesomeshow.com.
874-5676.
Yep.
Awesome show, you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good one,
Good night.
Go
everybody.
ahead and start some of these.